So today we will be discussing about this Morse circle first. So you see, right now we are discussing on stress analysis. We have introduced what the concept of stress. Then this was the introductory part. Okay. What is the content of this stress analysis we discussed here. Then the stress, where from it is coming, the multiscale modeling starting from atomic level, that also we discussed. The next part was Cauchy's equation. Thereby, in that section we discussed about stress at a point and developed Cauchy's equation. From there we have seen what are the principal stresses, and we have also constructed Morse circle. So only the construction part of Morse circle that was discussed. So today we will discuss Morse circle, the physical significance of Morse circle in this lecture. Okay, and afterwards we will be discussing about Cauchy's stress quadratic. Then these topics, equilibrium equation, this is the differential equation of equilibrium of a stressed body, and the transformation of stress tensor from one coordinate axis to another. These things we will be discussing afterwards. So let us start with Morse circle. So for your case, you have to go into this website and then you have to click there. Might be you have to ask permission to view these slides. Okay, and today's lecture you will get a link in YouTube as well. But for this lecture, I have downloaded the PowerPoint projection, and let me start from there. It is already open, so let us start with this. Okay, so this is what we have plotted using MATLAB, and our plot was basically this one. This is the Morse circle we have plotted for 3. Now, how these circles are coming? They are coming from these principal stresses, which we obtain by using Cauchy's equation. And you also know that those principal stresses, that means sigma 1, sigma 2 and sigma 3, they indicate the planes where this direction of sigma and direction of this traction vector t are identical. That means the planes where our normal stresses are maximum. Okay. And also those planes are devoid of any shear stress. So shear stress is 0 there. That part is clear. Now let us first see how to find out the equation of these circles. Okay. So here you observe these circles, they are drawn in sigma tau plane, right? So the equation of the circles, they are in terms of sigma and tau, which are basically some independent quantities here. Okay. Now, as the circles are coming from a basic state of stress which is given, okay, the values of sigma 1, sigma 2, sigma 3, they cannot be arbitrary. They are finite real numbers. Those things we have seen earlier, right? And that way, the radii of these circles, okay, they also cannot be arbitrary. Actually, the radii are given by this sigma 1, sigma 2, sigma 3 values we have already seen in our MATLAB program. So these equations, they come basically from the expression of sigma and the expression of tau. Okay. These things we have determined earlier in connection with Cauchy's equation. Okay. Now, what are the equations of this sigma and tau? This is our normal stress sigma n. Okay. So here what we are doing, you see, say let us reorient our coordinate axis, okay, along sigma 1, sigma 2 and sigma 3 direction. Is it clear? Now, this is what we were analyzing initially, okay, our state of stress in XYZ coordinate system. Okay, from that analysis, we obtained these principal stresses. Along with that, we know what are the directions of sigma A, sigma B and sigma C. This is clear. Okay. Now, what we are doing here in constructing Morse circle, we are reorienting this XYZ axis along the directions of principal stresses. Is it clear? So, these axes are now 1, 2 and 3, the directions of sigma 1, sigma 2 and sigma 3. Okay. That means this Morse circle here, this axis, they are oriented along principal directions. That is true even for our 2D analysis. Whenever you constructed Morse circle in 2D, there also this sigma axis was oriented along your principal stress direction. Okay. So that is true here also, right? So this particular equation, it will remain same. So that means if we orient the coordinate directions, then for this particular direction it has again some nx, ny, nz value. Okay. And as these components of stresses now along direction 1, 2 and 3, they are sigma 1, sigma 2, sigma 3. They are basically acting as the component of this t vector, right? That means tx, ty and tz like that. And from there we get this is our t vector or this is our t square, right? What is our this sigma n now? So this sigma n direction here, sigma a, b and c, they will be sigma 1, sigma 2 and sigma 3. Okay. And this nx, ny, nz are again the direction cosine of this plane n with respect to our coordinate system 1, 2 and 3. Right. And these two are equations where sigma and tau are independent, right? But for a three-dimensional state of stress, we need to have a third equation. Okay. So there, what about the quantity which is governing the relation between sigma and tau? Actually, that is the direction of this plane n, this outer normal plane is the third independent parameter here. Is it okay to understand that? That means what we are doing basically at this point, we are taking different directions of outer normal. And for particular directions of this outer normal, when that is oriented along the principal directions, then only we are getting principal stresses, right? But now you see that Outer normal is given by direction cosines nx, ny and nz, and they have a relationship between them. So that is nx square, ny square and nz square, their summation is 1. So you see, in these three equations, what are the conditions we are using? Right? We are basically using either this shear stress, either this equation in direct form, okay, or we can use an equation for t square, whatever. This is one of the equation. Then tau, sigma, these two are the two independent quantities, right? The third one, you can take anything from here is our independent quantity. Okay. So when we take nx as fixed value, we vary ny, nz with this, we get a particular circle. We keep ny a fixed quantity, we vary x and z, nx and nz, we get another set of circle. That way we get these three circles, three sets of circles. Is it clear? Is it clear? Now the radius of the circle, their center points, etc. we have discussed in our MATLAB programming lecture. So here let us see what is the equation of any particular circle, say the largest circle, that means whose endpoints are sigma 1 and sigma 3. So its center point, that was C1 in our programming, which is basically sigma 1 plus sigma 3 by 2. Okay. The radius of this circle, this is okay, sigma 1 minus sigma 3 by 2, clear. So what is the equation here? Sigma tau plane. You see, the center of the circle is right on y axis, okay, and the center, x coordinate of center is shifted by this much. This is 0 and this value is sigma 3 plus sigma 1 by 2, okay. So this is the equation, x minus xc square, okay, plus tau square, okay, because this line indicates tau 0 value. So this is as if our x square plus y square, and this is less than equal to, this is the radius. Okay. Now you observe, from this center we can draw any circles taking any radii, right? But out of that, this particular value, sigma 1 minus sigma 3 by 2, this is the maximum radius that is possible. So its value greater than that is not possible. Is clear? Okay. Now, what is the region now? It is less than. So whatever region we are having inside this circle, that is the possible region. Clear? What about the other one? Let us come to this. This is the circle representing sigma 1, sigma 2, that means this circle, okay. Center point sigma 1 plus sigma 2 by 2. So this is the equation. So this is our xc as if x minus xc square plus y square. Here, what is the condition? This is sigma 1 minus sigma 2 by 2, that means this is the radius, that is obviously we know that. But this is greater than equal to. We will come to that. Observe that, this is the thing. So that means the region, the possible region from this one was the entire inside. But now we are excluding this much. This is not a possible state of stress. Okay? We have another circle here. For this circle also we will have a similar sort of equation, and there also we will use this greater than equal to condition. So this inner region is not possible. Now you observe only the region which is marked by blue here. This is the possible region of state of stress. What does it mean? This is the possible sigma and tau values, okay, which we can get from our given state of stress. Clear? Okay. Now, why some of the regions are not possible? Actually, they are coming from these three basic equations. So, for any arbitrary values of nx, ny and nz, these equations will not hold. So, there are certain values only for which they will hold. So, that is why in this region possible state of stress is not possible. Okay. That also we will see here. Let us see further. Okay. You see now, we had three basic equations, right? Three basic equations. So, from this basic equation, let us solve for nx, ny and nz. That is possible?
Yes.
So, if we carry out that analysis, okay, then what we will get? We will get these equations as nx square is given by this. Okay. Then ny square is given by this. Okay. Nz square is given by this. So, where from these three equations are coming? Once again, these three equations are coming from these three equations. We are solving it and we are getting the expressions for nx, ny and nz. Right. Let us take which one we have considered here. Let us take the third one. Okay. This is the equation. Now, before discussing further, you observe one thing. What is this nx, ny and nz? Actually, this is basically the direction cosine of this outer normal. Now, this outer normal is for Morse circle. For Morse circle, these directions are 1, 2 and 3. When we started our analysis, we were with x, y and z coordinate system. Okay. So, now we are in 1, 2 and 3 direction cosines coordinate system, and this is our Morse circle. Right. So, here can we vary nx, ny, nz independently? It is no, we cannot, because nx, ny and nz, they are connected by this equation. We can vary only two of them, right?
Yes.
And the third one gets fixed automatically. If both are 1, this is 0.
Yes.
Actually, both of them 1 is not possible.
Not possible.
If any one of them is 1, others are 0. Right. So then, if this is 1 by root 2, this is 1 by root 2. Then we get whatever it is. This is half. Is it something like that? I do not know.
Yes, sir.
No.
But no, 0, sir. If it
1
is,
by 2 and 1 by 2, this is 0. What happens if it is 1 by root 2 and 1 by root 2? 2 by root 2, it is becoming root 2. It is not possible once again. So, you understand that.
sir, 1 by root 3, 1 by root 3, 1 by root 3.
That is possible. Okay, but 1 by root 2, 1 by root 2 is not possible as such. Half and half is possible.
Yes, sir. After
Hmm. It's clear? Okay. Now, whatever. So, only two of them can be varied. Now, what happens? Say, for this direction n, let us keep nx fixed. And we vary ny and nz. What will happen? What is nx? This is the angle with x-axis, cos of the angle between direction cosine direction and x direction, right? That is value of nx. If nx is fixed, nx is cos theta x. Say. Theta x is angle between this normal outer normal direction and x-axis direction. That angle is fixed. And if we move the outer normal, what it will generate? It will generate a cone. This is the axis of the cone. With this axis, this is the apex point. Keeping a certain angle, this line is moving. Is it clear? So it is generating a family of circles for different values of nx. Okay. This is clear. For nz, nz means this particular angle. Actually, if we consider this as 1, 2 and 3 direction, okay, we are now in principal stress direction straight. So that angle is fixed, and keeping nz fixed, if we vary nx and ny, what would be the circles that would be generated? Actually, those are different cones which are generated. These outer normal direction line will generate cones, and those cones, if we consider a sphere here, okay, their intersection will produce a family of circles. It is shown here. This is one, like that. So these are the circles we are getting in Morse diagram, Morse circles diagram. Okay. This is clear? So that is how we are getting three family of circles here. The only thing is why this region is only a possible region, these regions are not possible. Okay, this is clear. Now I think this much is clear, how we are getting three circles, family of three circles. Okay. Okay, let us focus on this. This is what I have just mentioned. Okay. This is the equation, third equation. Cross multiply. Is it clear? This is taken in the left hand side and this is taken in the right hand side. Okay. Now this is the condition, sigma 1 greater than sigma 2 greater than sigma 3. This is general case, there are many special cases. Okay. We won't discuss special cases here. Now you see, if we expand this, sigma square minus sigma 1 plus sigma 2 into sigma, and then there would be a term sigma 1 into sigma 2. Clear? Then there is a tau square. This part is fine. So here, whatever we are getting from this product, if we add this much, what we'll get? From there, we can manipulate this thing to express it in this form, sigma minus sigma 1 plus sigma 2 by 2 whole square minus of this Okay, because this will produce sigma square plus sigma 1 plus sigma 2 by 2, that is whole square, and minus twice sigma into sigma 1 plus sigma 2 by 2, and then bring it in the left hand side. You will see, you will get back this particular expression. Is it coming? I checked it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine, thank you. So, this is the thing we are getting, and in the right hand side we have this quantity, and this is what we are taking it in the right hand side. Okay. And let us say this whole thing is this represent a radius, because in the left hand side what we are having is the equation of the circle.
Center.
This is the center point. This is what we have seen earlier. This one,
Yes, sir.
clear? Okay. Now what about this? Here, this is a constant. Okay. So, if this is a constant, then this is equation of a circle, and this whatever we are getting from here, we are expressing it as a square quantity, and we are getting the radius of the circle as well. Now, what is the minimum value of this actually? What is the value of nz, possible value of nz?
Less than minus 1.
1 to 0,
Zero.
0 to 1,
Yes, sir.
cannot be anything other than that. So, if it is 0, what is the value of this radius? Sigma 1 minus sigma 2 by 2.
What?
No, there is square. So, this is the thing. That means we are getting, this is, what is the center point?
Sigma plus sigma.
Sigma 1 plus sigma 2 by 2. Sigma 1 plus sigma 2 by 2. This is the center point.
Yes.
This is the radius value, sigma 1 minus sigma 2 by 2. That is the radius we are getting. This would be the radius, sigma 1 minus sigma 2 by 2. Okay, this is becoming 0. Okay, fine. Let us see what happens if nz is greater than 0. If it is greater than 0, this is positive quantity.
Yes.
Okay. Sigma 3 is less than sigma 1.
Yes. Negative 1.
Here sigma 3 is less than sigma 2. Both are negative quantities.
Yes.
So this whole thing is a positive quantity.
Yes.
So this whole thing, a positive quantity, we are adding with this. This is also a positive quantity. So what will happen to this radius now?
R3.
It is something greater than the previous one.
Yes.
So that is what we have mentioned here.
Yes.
In this circle we cannot come inside. Is it clear now? Why we cannot come inside? So it is only possible if we go outside. And now if we come to this, that means sigma 1 and sigma 3, for that, which one it would be? This one, from ny. We will get a particular equation. For that we will see it can come only inside. Okay. Now this is clear.
Yes, sir.
The constant you read this thing, you will understand what I have told is written here. Okay. Next part. So this is the one we are considering now. Okay. So this is for the circle corresponding to sigma 1 and sigma 3. That means the outer circle, the
Big one.
circle with maximum radius. So here again we can express this equation in this form.
Yes.
Here again, if ny is 0, okay, this is the quantity we will get, sigma 1 minus sigma 3 by 2. that means we are getting this particular circle, the outermost circle. Now what happens here if ny is greater than 0, some quantity, 0.5 point, whatever. So this is a positive quantity, right? Sigma 2 minus sigma 3, this is a positive quantity, sigma 2 greater than sigma 3. What about this? Sigma 2 minus sigma 1 is a negative quantity, sigma 2 is less than sigma 1. So ultimately this product is a negative quantity. Clear? So whatever is the value of ny, we can assume from 0 to 1. Okay? We will get some values which is less than this, and that is equal to this R2 square. So what will happen in that case? This is the situation. This has to be less than equal to, okay, for the circle with maximum radius, that means for sigma 1, sigma 3 principal stress values, this is the maximum limit of the radius. The other possibilities are only inside of this circle. This clear? So the same thing will happen for this circle. So this is what we have stated initially, and this is the logic here. Is it clear? Okay.
Sir, next slide.
Okay. Sure. What?
Sir, this NZ value or index, these values are lie between -1 to 1, not sir.
This is a square.
Yes, sir, but I have told the NZ value will lie 0 to 1, but this value is like -1 to 1.
Whatever. It is a square quantity, it will become a positive thing.
This square quantity will lie between 0 to 1.
Okay. Okay, that is true,
Yes.
but that doesn't make any difference
Yes,
to
sir.
our
Yes,
analysis, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that much is fine.
Yes, sir.
Is it okay? But now there is other questions. This is the possible state of stress. But if we pick a point from here, say in this Morse circle, let us look at any point here. What is the benefit of this diagram? That what we will get from there? So corresponding to this particular point, say this is the point. What we pick up from here, drop a perpendicular, we get a particular sigma value. And from here, you drop another line here, we get a particular tau value. So sigma tau value of this point we can find out. But what is the use of that? What does it indicate actually? This indicate this sigma and tau value. Okay. General condition for a particular direction of this outer normal, we are getting sigma and tau values. But we need to find out what is the value of nx, ny and nz. What is this particular direction for which the values are sigma and tau? Okay. Say our question is the state of stress is given by the principal stresses sigma 1, sigma 2, sigma 3. This is given. It is also possible.
Yes.
Our input quantities are the principal stress quantities.
Yes.
And then we need to find out
Yes.
in which direction this particular stress sigma and tau, it will be generated. What would be the direction along which this state of stress will get? Right. So the question is now how to find out nx, ny and nz corresponding to this particular point. Clear? Okay. First point is known, we look at the point,
Yes, sir.
and then you see there are 3 circles. So we can measure what is the distance from the center of the circle to this point. Okay. say for this is R3, we draw a circle through this point, we can find out what is R3. Now, say from here, from this center, we pass another circle and find out what is R1. Okay. So if these two values are known, say R3 value is known. If R3 value is known, that means what is known? This much is known.
Yes, sir.
So what does it mean? Sigma 1, sigma 2, sigma 3 values are known. We get nz. Okay? Clear? Straight away you can find out what is nz. From this equation, again, this say radius R2 is known. So straight away you can find out what is ny. Clear? Now, if nz, ny they are known, nx is always fixed by that equation, nx square plus ny square plus nz square is 1. So what we can do now, we can use that particular value of nx to find out what is the other radius R1, okay, because R2 and R3 we have used to determine ny and nz. Now we are using this relation to find out what is nx, and if that is known, we can find out what is R1. Okay. That means you can take any two as independent radii and you can find out nx, ny, nz from there. And the third one, what is the use of the third one? This is for the purpose of checking. You back calculate what is that. Draw that circle, if it passes through this point, your calculation is correct. This is the thing. Okay. This is fine. So this is how mode circles are used. Okay. So this is a historical development. Today no one will be going for this graphical solution, right? Even in your undergraduate also, you never used this mode circle. There are analytical expressions, you will be using those analytical expressions. So here also we have seen that although the calculations are a bit difficult, we can use MATLAB, that sort of thing, to solve that. So again, these mode circles we can draw very easily, but we won't find out the solution by constructing a mode circle and finding out this radii, right? But you must know, okay, this theory part must be known. Is clear? So this is about the mode circles for three-dimensional state of stress. Okay. So this is fine. And then I was talking about this coefficient of Lode and Nadai. So this is a coefficient. You recall in our MATLAB program we had a code to determine this coefficient, right?
Yes, sir.
So this is what we computed there. And you observe that this coefficient, it varies from -1 to +1, and this particular value gives some indication of the state of stress. Okay. And another important thing is, if you get an identical value of this coefficient, then this represents that the state of stress are equivalent. Okay. So this is one use of this Lode and Nadai coefficient. Find out what is the nature of the state of stress. Clear? Looking some conditions are there, and now these are different shapes of Mohr circles. Corresponding to those shapes, you can find out what are this coefficients. This is what is shown here. Now, so far, what we have analyzed? We have analyzed the principal stresses. Okay, from there we obtain these Mohr circles. But Mohr circles, they give us some other information also. What are the values of maximum shear stress? Okay. Now the question is where this maximum shear stress will occur. This is the question, right? So now, for shear stress, it is not that corresponding to maximum shear stress our sigma n will be 0. It is not that.
Yes, sir.
But if principal stress is maximum, tau is 0. That is true. Okay. So, but still we can find out the maximum magnitude of shear stress, and we can also find out what are the directions corresponding to this maximum shear stress. What are those? Those are the planes where maximum shear stresses are induced. Clear? So these planes are known as octahedral planes. So these are the planes of maximum shear. Why this is important? Because many a time we use maximum shear stress as the criteria of failure.
Yes,
Right. In that case, this sigma 1, sigma 2, sigma 3 values, those are not of concern to us. We know that failure will occur due to maximum shear stress. And where it will occur in the octahedral plane, and then we have to give our dimension accordingly so that the induced stresses are reduced there. Right. Now, what are these directions of maximum shear planes? That means octahedral planes. Now, this we can find out by taking what we need to do from here. If this is our expression for shear stress, we can take a derivative of this with respect to, say, n1, n2, n3. If this is maximum, then what is the derivative of this tau with respect to nx, ny and nz? If we put them 0, then this will give a maximum value of tau. That way also we can get 3 equations is possible, but any 2 is independent. The third one is automatically guided by the relation between direction cosines. Their square sum is 1. So that is a possibility, and if we go that way, then we see that this is what we'll get basically. That means when our state of stress is expressed in principal stress direction, is it okay? So that means this xyz is not the initial xyz direction from where we started our analysis. Now this is oriented along principal stress direction, and with reference to that direction, if we consider a plane whose outer normal is given by this direction cosines. What does it mean? This line is equally inclined to all the 3 coordinate axes, right? 1 by root 3, 1 by root 3, 1 by root 3, plus minus is possible. Okay. So then we will get these planes of maximum shear. Okay. Fine. So what are these planes? Let us take a visualization of that. Okay. So here, this is the orientation along 1, 2 and 3 direction, and here we are constructing some normals which are equally inclined to this coordinate axis, right? So how many planes will be there? On the top half there are 4 quadrants, so there are 4 such planes. In the bottom half also we have 4 quadrants, we have 4 such planes. So this is the thing. And actually this is true because here 8 combinations are possible. This can be 1 by root 3 plus minus, this can be 1 by root 3 plus minus, this can be 1 by root 3 plus minus. 2 to the power 3 is 8. So these are the 8 possibilities. Now, it is not that when we have maximum shear stress, there is no principal stress. There would be some principal stresses, and we can determine those principal stresses as well. Okay. What would be those values? This is clear from the expressions of this sigma n and this tau. Okay. So in sigma n, this is 1 by root 3, 1 by root 3, 1 by root 3. This is 1/3 of this thing. Right? What does it mean? So this is 1/3 of sigma 1 plus sigma 2 plus sigma 3, and this is first invariant 1/3 phi 1. Okay. Right. What is the magnitude of this octahedral shear stress? Here is again 1/3 of this. All through we are getting 1/3 as such. That means 3, in square it will become 3, and then it will become 1 by 9, and the remaining thing can be expressed in this form. Okay. Some manipulation is carried out here. Okay. Here we are getting 1/3, and another square is there which is making is 1 by 9, right? And then after some manipulation it is possible to express this tau, its tau octahedral square, in this form.
Yes, sir.
You try it analytically, it is possible. You do it. If it is there is any difficulty, you let me know. I will show you. Okay, fine. And from there again you see this is expressed like this, and from there what we get, tau octahedral is root 2 by 3, and what are these quantities? This is our I1 first invariant, and this is the second invariant. You see, this is our second invariant, right?
Yes.
What will happen if our coordinate axis x, y, z are oriented along 1, 2 and 3 principal stress directions? So, for principal plane, the tau values are 0, because in principal plane there is no shear stress. So this is 0, and this is sigma 1 sigma 2 plus sigma 2 sigma. This is the thing. So this is I2 then. So what we are getting here, this is first invariant and this is the second invariant. Okay. So this is the quantity. So what does it mean? That means the invariants of the stress tension I1, I2 and I3, they have some significance physically also. Okay. As if this first invariant is equivalent to an average stress value. Okay. Rather, we'll see that this is what we say as hydrostatic stress. Okay. This is the term used for this quantity. 1/3 of this is known as hydrostatic stress. And here again, this is I2, so second invariant is another contributing factor in some failure theories. Okay. Because tau octahedral is used to govern failure. In failure theories corresponding to maximum principal shear stress, this I2 plays a role. This is second invariant of the state of stress tensor. This is clear? This much is clear? So with this idea, what we do sometimes, a given state of stress matrix, okay, is decomposed into these two parts. Now, you observe another thing. This sigma x plus sigma y plus sigma z, that is also equal to this sigma 1 plus sigma 2 plus sigma 3.
Yes, sir.
That has to be. We have already seen previously. So, summation of diagonal terms, this is our I1. Okay. So, if we take a quantity which is 1/3 of I1 and say this quantity is P, where P is termed as hydrostatic stress. You can say this is equivalent to some hydrostatic pressure. This is P. P is 1/3 of this. Okay. And this state of stress matrix now can be expressed like this. What is this condition? There is no shear. There are only a constant stresses there. So this state of stress is equivalent to a hydrostatic state of stress, a body under pure compression or pure tension. Okay. And what about this thing? This is the remaining quantity. You manipulate this one and this one. The given state of stress matrix minus this hydrostatic stress matrix. This is what we have written here. It is possible.
Yes.
What about this second part? What we can say about the second part? Its first invariant is 0.
First invariant I1.
It has to be, because you see from here, this is sigma x plus sigma y plus sigma z.
Yes, sir.
And here this
Minus
size of P is sigma x
Yes,
plus.
sir.
Okay. So its first invariant is 0. If its first invariant is 0, then whatever is remaining here, okay, that will correspond to this tau octahedral. Right?
First invariant 0, that means this term is 0.
So it is now a function of this I2 only. Because now our I1 is 0. For that state of stress, our I1 is 0. I1 is 0.
But sir, if I1 is 0,
Mhm.
this value is negative, minus 3L2. Oh, sorry.
That
This
depends on the value of
of L, I2.
I2 again.
Yes, sir, I have calculated the I2 value, but most of the case this value come negative.
Okay, whatever, you have to see this thing. But now we are not using the original state of stress matrix. Now we are using this one. Okay. So this is what you have to calculate, and this particular one we can use to analyze those type of materials for which this failure corresponding to maximum shear stress occurs. Okay. So that way, this part of stress matrix, this is called the deviatoric part of the stress matrix. So the given stress matrix is now decomposed into two parts. First part is hydrostatic stress part. The second part is known as the deviatory stress part. This is the deviatory stress.
Sir, in this part, the diagonal element, sum of the diagonal element will be 0. That means the sum of the principal stress value will be 0.
Right.
That means this state of stress is the pure shear condition stress.
This is pure shear, or that corresponds to our octahedral planes, octahedral shear planes. Okay. Now, out of these two parts, the first part, the hydrostatic stress related to volume change. And actually, what we calculate from here is that bulk modulus. Right?
Okay.
You know bulk modulus, what is that? It means corresponding to this stress, what is the change in volume that we calculate there. So this is one thing, and corresponding to this, what happens? This represents the shape change. So due to shear stress, there will be only change in shape, but no change in volume. Okay. This is also clear. This is the thing, and now this is how we express them. That is the same thing, nothing more. This is a particular problem, how to find out sigma hydrostatic, how to express this state of stress in two parts. Okay, the deviatoric stress corresponding to this given state of stress. This decomposition is easy, nothing much is there. So when I1 is 0, octahedral plane is subjected to pure shear. There. Stress. Okay, whatever, this is the same thing as if now corresponding to this deviatoric state of stress, instead of I1, I2, I3, if we rename them J1, J2, J3, this is what we will get. Okay, the revised expressions corresponding to this. These are in tensor notations. Okay, this is the expression of tangential stress intensity quantity. This is also what we use in failure theories. Okay, I will discuss it here. And one last thing is,
What is tangential stress?
we will discuss it afterwards. Okay, this is a quantity which is used in failure theories. This is the expression. This you can compute. That is not a big thing. But the thing is, what is the physical significance of tangential stress intensity, right?
Yes, sir.
That is the question, what it would be. One thing is here, you see, for pure shear, if this is the case, this is a case of pure shear, then this quantity would be equal to tau. Tau is shear stress. So this is something which is used in some failure theories, in plasticity theories, etc. So here right now we won't be discussing further on this tangential stress intensity, but they will come afterwards. So that is why we are not highlighting it here. And one feature you note, the state of stress for our uniaxial tension. That means this is what we use in ultimate tensile test machine. Okay. We calculate yield stress and other things, okay, in UTM machine. So there, this is the state of stress, right? There is a sigma x only, because other stress values are 0. So this is a principal stress, sigma 1 say, right? And in that case, what is our deviatoric state of stress? So what is P, hydrostatic stress? Sigma 1 by 3, right? So in deviatoric stress matrix, the first diagonal element S11 is I1 minus or sigma 1 minus P. So 2/3 sigma, say yield value YV. Sigma YV is sigma yield value. Because in uniaxial tension, what is the maximum value we can reach? Say yield stress, okay. So this is the value, sigma yield value. And what are the other two diagonal components? This minus 1/3 of sigma.
P by 3 minus P.
So this is the condition, and corresponding to that, if we calculate this quantity, the tangential stress intensity, what is that tangential stress intensity? This is the value we will obtain. So put here, sigma x is sigma y, these other values are 0. Actually, we have another sigma x here, okay. So from there is a 1 by root 6. This is what you will get. From there one root 2 will come out. We will get 1 by root 3, and this sigma 1 is your sigma. This is P. Okay. Now you recall that corresponding to maximum shear stress failure theory, this is our failure condition, is it not? So that is why this tangential stress intensity is something which we use in failure theories. Clear? So this much for today. This is about our Morse circle. Okay.